Hi, I'm John Waterhouse, and this is the original Science of Mind as taught by Barbara Waterhouse. Except today things are a little different. I'm actually teaching a class in this series on spiritual mind treatment. And if you watched last week's class, you saw the beginning of that conversation, and we'll complete it tonight. So, if you're a person who practices spiritual mind treatment, someone who uses that as their form of prayer, then this could be a wonderful review. And if you don't do that, I'm sure there's some going to be some things for you to think about in this class, and that it can help you along the way on how you practice your spiritual disciplines. And I'm knowing that for you that this is a worthwhile experience and that you enjoy the evening or the time we spend together here. So let's open this with a spiritual mind treatment. And if you would join me by centering yourself, perhaps closing your eyes if that works for you, and simply knowing that there is a presence, there is a power, a creative force that is always here. It's what we live in. It's so real, even though we can't see it or touch it or taste it or feel it. Perhaps we can feel it. What we can do is know it and know that every thought that we have, every word that we speak, every action that we take creates that creative flow in our lives. That we are the creators of our experience, that we are the ones that are truly in charge of our life journey. And as we discuss these ideas, these components of what is called spiritual mind treatment, I know that there are revelations that occur in the minds and hearts of everyone who shares in this experience. I know that each one has everything that they need to know this truth and to use it well in their lives. I know that only good can come to us and move through us because that presence, that divine creative force of the universe is good. And I simply let that be true for us now as we delve into these ideas, experiencing the very best of ourselves and one another. And with gratitude and love, I simply let this be so. And so it is. Fantastic. Again, have a great class. I'll see you at the end. Okay, we got step one down. And now it's time to move to step two. Actually, step two, the traditional name that most people give it is unification. I struggle with that term because if one of the things that we use to describe the divine is a unity, which in our language doesn't really even work, because if something is a unity, it's the only thing that exists, so there can't be another unity. So the word a doesn't really work. But play with it inside the limitations of language. If God is a unity, how do you unify with it? You can't, because it's already what it is. So some have tried to explain to me that it's actually a process of being aware of the unity of spirit. Still, the word unification I struggle with. I prefer the word identification. I want to identify with and as that presence. Now this is, some people tell me easy. I experience it as the place where most people trip up, because they are more comfortable with the idea that they've got their lives and God's over there. It just shifts everything. It's like people can go, oh, God is all there is, or all exists within the presence of the divine, but not me, because I'm a mess, or I'm not that, I just don't feel like I'm that. Well, it doesn't come that natural. I think it does when you're not in a body. And if we're infinite beings, we probably spend lots of, I don't even know if there's time when you're not in a body. Maybe there isn't. But there's got to be a point where when we are not in a body that we recognize that presence as us. I just can't see how you couldn't in that state. But in the state of having a body, you identify the physical, you see separation, it looks like we're different, so there must be something that separates us from this infinite presence too. But really, it can't, because if God is all there is, then that has to be who we are. It has to be. It can't be anything else. It just doesn't equate. It's impossible. So, if the presence of the divine is the infinite, absolute presence of the universe, beyond the universe, it contains this universe and who knows how many more, then it must be what we are. So the task is to start getting a sense of that. And one thing that it takes to get there for me is to understand the concept of perfection. Most people think that perfection means that something turned out the way I imagined it would. That's perfect. That is a very, very limited perception of perfection. For me, the great perception of perfection, that could be a tongue twister,
Yes.
is to understand that what you think is perfectly transformed into your experience without exception. Now, some people don't want to own that. I didn't think about getting cancer. I didn't think about getting a divorce. I didn't think about losing a job. But something in your consciousness allowed that to be experienced. So somewhere in your consciousness, the experience you're having right now and in every moment of your life came from some expression in your consciousness. Not separate from you, as you. Now that's not a blaming statement. That's an empowering statement. Because if that's so, you can have a different thought. You can shift your consciousness. You are absolutely in charge of your consciousness. And you can shift it and get a different result. So that's a statement of empowerment. So when you think about perfection, don't think about that you had an idea of how something was going to be and this is what showed up. What showed up is perfect. It's exactly what your consciousness called for. That's what you get because that's who you are. I often tell people you don't get what you want. You don't even get what you don't get what you want. You don't get what you need. That's it. In fact, it's the other way around. You don't get what you need. You don't even get what you want. You get who you are.
You get what you are?
Yeah.
Or who you are. Yeah, always. Everything fits perfectly into your consciousness. And that's never a blaming thing. That's an empowering thing. Always. You're never less than. You're always more. Yes?
Okay. Now, on recognition, the quote-unquote definition was divine presence. What is there a short phrase like that for the identification?
God is I am. So this is the step that kind of changes the dynamic. In the traditional Judeo-Christian model, you've got God, you've got human, us. What's the other part of the triangle? Satan.
Oh,
That's the traditional model.
okay.
So this one tries to get you, and you ask to be saved and helped, and this one saves you somehow. And this one doesn't like this one. But they are kind of part of some balancing act in the drama of the model. But we don't have to play that game anymore. That's not real. The reality of life is that there's only this. That's it. There's God. It's all there. And even though we use a circle to define it, pretty good circle, huh?
It is.
We use a limited concept to define it. The idea is that there's really no separation. Even though when we use this model, of course we put these two lines in it. But that's not a separation of physicality. Everything physical is here. Everything that we are as spirit is here. And this is the mechanism that moves it from the infinite and invisible presence of the divine into physical form. That's what that's about. That's the whole game. That's the whole idea. So there's no one to go to war with here. There's no one against us. There's nothing against us. We can play that game, But I have to tell you, and not blaming them, but places in the world where there is war and terrorism and violence are places where people are afraid and where people are seeking to reach out and hurt. The only people they will hurt are people who are either going to war against them, challenging them, or afraid of them. That's it. And that is a scenario of choice. And you go, well, the children don't, possibly. At some level, yes. You know, one of the big questions that always comes up in these classes is, what about the Nazis? Weren't they bad? Well, they did a lot of really gross stuff and horrible things to people. And what about all the German Jews? Weren't they victims? Well, you know, you can play that game and see them as victims, but then you got to play in that top model. You got to say that's the way the world is organized. The truth is, the truth for me, what I perceive is that in those scenarios where somebody does something to a group of other people, the people that it's being done to are bringing the world this amazing gift. They are bringing a higher awareness that we don't want to do this as a species. And we are a learning species. We're slow, but we are learning. We're learning how to coexist in a state of peace. And the only way we're going to come to an absolute resolution of that is when these situations occur and we go, we don't want that. We're actually in one right now with this thing in the Middle East. I mean, we've been having stuff with people in the Middle East for a long, long time, but it seems to be coming to a head now. It seems to be taking center stage in our lives. And y'all know who Nostradamus is?
Oh, yeah.
I used to study that because I was fascinated how somebody in the, what was it, the 14th century could know what was going to happen centuries later. I love that. I think that's fascinating. And time, you know, is an illusion. And how did someone break the code on that? I just love that. And I remember in my reading that he said there were 3 antichrists. Doesn't say that in the Bible, but that's what Nostradamus said. And they pretty much concluded, the interpreters say, the first one was Napoleon. And Nostradamus lived in France, so that would be really important to him. And then the second one was Hitler. And he even almost got the spelling right in his quatrains on that. Brilliant. Hester, I think is what he called it.
Yeah, Hester.
Histler, yeah, something like that. I mean, that's really close. And of course, Hitler took over France, or the Nazis did. So that would be really important to him from that perspective as well. And the third one is supposed to be something coming out of the Muslim world, the Islamic world, according to what he wrote and how it's interpreted. And where do they attack and get the world's attention? Paris.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Coincidence.
Oh, it's just a coincidence. There it is. So, you know, I you know, that's a diversion to go into Nostradamus, but the point is that this is all the evolving nature of our species. And it's dramatic. And people die. And there's violence. And there's, now we call it terror. And all of that's happening. And the end result of all this, in pretty much all philosophies, is that there is this millennia of peace. That's where we're working toward. And what that means is that at some point the human species is going to say, this isn't working, we have to do something else. And we're finding our way to that answer. So we're on a perfect course. And whatever you perceive the problems of the world are, children starving, child abuse, genocide, whatever it is, it's part of a natural process of us working through our stuff and maturing as a species. So we're on course. We're just not done. So when someone says to me, oh, these bad things that are happening in the world, what do I do? Know that we're working through it. In this class, there was a wonderful woman here who does everything in her life she can to live off the grid and to be green. We know what that means, right?
Yes.
She said, and I see all these wasteful people wasting energy and doing all these things. And she said, what do I do? I said, you must know that they're all finding their way to that higher understanding. And she just relaxed. I don't know, you mean, because she was judging them. She was finding fault in them. She wasn't finding fault. They're finding their way. So when you see someone who is getting your attention and pulling you into a judgment, Don't do that. Don't bite. Look back at them and say, that's the presence of the divine, trying to trick me. I'm not going to do it. I see you got that, doing that thing. You know, it's all the call for us to know who we are and to know what world we live in. And we live in the world of the divine presence. That's the highest truth. So we live in the world identifying ourselves as that divine presence. Now what you get out of that is the authority to speak your word. You get to say that the presence of the divine is absolute. Everything that is contained in this divine presence. It has no edges. It is full and complete. And this is what I am. So I speak from that knowing. Knowing that my word creates my experience. And when I know that and believe that, then whatever I say after it is going to happen. It's just going to happen. Now, is it going to happen when you open your eyes? Sometimes. And you know, you can treat a physical ailment knowing full well that health prevails, and that's the truth. And absolutely know it, and you can open your eyes and you can feel the difference in your body and not feel that other thing again. You can do that. I've done it in other people's bodies. I've gone out into the parking lot, and it wasn't the hands-on business, but I've gone out in the parking lot and done a treatment over a car that wouldn't start and had it turn over immediately. What is that? It means that I know that what I see and what I know is created and manifest into form immediately. One of the projects I give all my practitioner students is to, for a week, to treat for something that they already have. Why would I do that? So that you know what it feels like to know that you already have it. And then you have that experience of knowing with everything you treat. That make sense? Mm-hmm. It really gives you that full experience. So if you've got something wonderful happening in your life, give it a try. Treat it. Because you already know all about it. You know what it looks like. You have a sensory relationship with it. You know how it smells, how it tastes. If it has a taste, you know how it feels. You know how it sounds. And you experience all of those things. And then you know the next thing that you or someone else is saying isn't present. Yes, it is. Here's how I know it is so. Because I can feel it. I can taste it. I can touch it. I can smell it. It's right here. That's where you go in treatment. So let's see what else we have here. So we talked about judgment. You cannot have any judgment in your treatments. You never, as we go into the third step, we never, ever, ever treat for something to go away. Because we're focusing on the thing. And the focus that we give it creates it. So trying to get something to go away, it just won't go away if you treat for it to go away. It doesn't work. You have to know what you want in its place. You have to know what you're moving toward, not what you're trying to get away from. Because you were really good at creating whatever it is that's already there, so now you must turn away from it, as Holmes says, turn away from the condition and treat knowing a higher reality and a higher outcome. And you give no energy at all to that. Well, what if it's about paying my bills? Well, pay your bills. And know that you always have enough money to pay your bills. What I've noticed, we do that treatment for freedom on Sunday mornings. Barbara and I are doing that every day. And the money in our bank accounts is just piling up. And we're going, we have to invest this money. It's a good thing, And amazingly, we were going to buy that property in Florida. Mm-hmm. We didn't buy it, but we happened to sell some precious metals we had at a peak point. We didn't know it was a peak point. It just was time to sell the gold, so we sold it. And it's gone down $100 an ounce since then. In fact, Barbara pulled up the graph today, and she said, see that peak right there? That's where we sold it. And now it's down here. I go, oh, praise God. Which is what my life is about. So those kind of things will happen to you if you have in your consciousness that you are prosperous, that if things are working out, that you have the answer to everything that you desire. This stuff just works out. But you have to believe it's working out. If you find yourself catching yourself thinking it's not, you know what I call that? A treatment. Don't do that. Don't do that thing where your mind gets caught or hooked by the idea that something's not working out. You must stay in a state of knowing it is working out. Right now, it's worked out. That's where you keep your mind. Now, one caveat to that is don't walk around with your third step telling people that the deal is closed. That's lying, because your communication to other people is a reality thing. It's not your work in treatment. Your work in treatment is, yes, it's closed. Yes, it's closed. Yes, it's closed. When somebody says, is it closed? I'm working on it all day long, is a good answer. But don't say, yes, it's closed, and then come to find out it's not. Because you create a conflict there. You know you lied to somebody, and then what happens? You did all that treatment work and it doesn't close. Or whatever, however that works out. So your communications to people still need to be honest while you're doing your treatment work, working it out.
Always tell the truth.
Always tell the truth and tell it quickly. Yes, absolutely. So, step 3 is where we're going here. Barbara likes the word affirmation. Holmes used the number of words. One was declaration. I, however, love the word realization. There's nothing wrong with affirmation. Affirming something means that you're making it firm. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing at all. So affirmations are great things. Declaration is kind of a powerful term. I declare this is so. That's got some oomph to it, some drama to it, some power to it. That's nice. But realization is effortless. Think about a time where you realize something. Oh, I just realized. It doesn't take any effort at all. But it's very real. I mean, it's got the word real in it. So the idea of realizing is so easy. And it should be. It shouldn't be hard to get in your life, in your consciousness, what you desire. It should be easy. So realizing it is not a creative force. It's simply allowing it to be revealed in your life. Wow. I just realized. Isn't that nice? And I find in life that things go much easier when I'm not all attached to the outcome. They say, people who have money can borrow lots of money and can make lots of money. Well, of course they can. They've already got money in their consciousness. They got that worked out. So people want to lend them money. They have lots of money to do what they want because they've got that worked out. They realize that they have money. That money's not a problem. I've had people in my life who just go, oh, money's easy. Barbara does that. Let it be easy. Why not? So that's a process of realizing. So I like to call my third step a realization. And what I realize is that the thing that I'm desiring is already here. It's right here. I can see it. I can feel it. I can touch it. It's real to me. I try to use all of that when I'm working in my third step. If it's a physical thing that I'm manifesting into my life, I want to know how much it weighs. I want to feel it's if it's gold coins, oh yeah, very nice. If it's a health issue, I go to that part of my body and I feel the ease with which I move. I feel my breath. I feel the blood circulating through my body. I feel it. I'm engaged in it. It's three-dimensional. It's not just wanting it. The thing between wanting it and saying that it's so is a really thin line. But for me, you got to work it a bit. You got to really be in it. And then you're actually in a place of manifesting it. It's called mental equivalence. Another Troward word, where the idea is you have to have the mental capacity to have this in your life for it to be there. Well, but if that were so, then I can only have what I've already had. No, I can have anything, so long as I can have a mental experience of it. Once I can have it. So what I often do when I'm going into a city and I'm speaking somewhere, I love to have a couple minutes on the stage before everybody gets in the room, so that I can own the room. And my teacher in Australia, who is not a religious scientist or a science of mind student, gave me a great way to do that. What I do is I stand on the stage and I look all across the room, to the back wall, into the corners, up the side walls, ceiling, floor, and I own that space. My space. And all these wonderful people can come in because I let them. We have this wonderful time, and I'm totally at ease because they are my guests. They're center, but to that day they're my guests. And when I go up and talk to them, I already know them all because they're in my space, and they're there because I want them there. You know, and you shift your consciousness around things like that, and you get a different result. In the book that I'm writing, I told the story about being in Australia, about having had back when I lived in Houston a very, very difficult experience when I was struggling in my life. A neighbor asked me to go play tennis. Just hitting the ball, not a game. He was too good for that. But I didn't want to, get decimated. But we went out to hit the tennis ball back and forth, and I kept missing. And to the point, and I would keep saying I was sorry. And to the point where I would say I was sorry before I hit the ball. It was ridiculous. And finally I just went home. I said, I can't do this anymore. A couple of years later, I was living in Sydney, Australia. And the group that I was with, we did our meetings all during the week. And on the weekend, we would go off and do fun things. And one weekend, the idea was, we'll go play tennis. I can't go. What's wrong? I don't like tennis. Have you ever played? Oh, yeah.
Sort of.
And my teacher, Ken, saw this going on. He came over and sat down next to me. He says, you know how to be really good at tennis? Okay, you got my attention. He said, you go onto the court, and you have a racket, and you have balls, and you own them. You look at the court, and you own the court. You own the surface of the court, you own the ground beneath the court, all the way to the center of the earth. You own the net, you own the judge's chair, you own the out of bounds all the way to the fence, and you own the sky above you into the heavens. And you own anything that comes into that area, even the person you're playing. You own their tennis racket, you own whatever balls they bring, you own their clothes. And you're letting them come out and play with you. So I listened to all that, and I looked at everybody and said, okay, we'll go play tennis. So I had the blessing of playing with a guy that was really good. His name was Trevor, and he could hit a tennis ball. And so he and I got on, and I said, give me a minute. He knew exactly what I was doing. But he started serving me the ball. Every ball he served, I hit back. Every single one. We played out there, I don't know, at least a half hour. I hit everything. And it went on his side of the court in bounds. You know? It was I was just in this euphoric state. And I knew that it was my thinking that created that outcome. It was interesting, when I left Australia, I went back to Miami, where I had lived earlier in my life. And my mom, I moved in with my mom for a short time. And she worked for a bank, and they were having, I think it was a 4th of July holiday party of all the bank employees out at a park. And a bunch of people wanted to play volleyball. And none of them knew me. And so we went out there, and there were picking sides, and one group was all jocks. And one group was everybody else with me. And I got them all together, and I said, you want to win? Well, sure. But look who's over there. I said, don't matter. This is what we're going to do. And I took them through that whole process of owning the whole thing, owning the jocks. We beat the crap out of them. And these guys are over there going, what's going on? And they're getting angry and they're yelling at each other. They had no idea what was going on. But we beat them. It was quite amazing. I hadn't learned spiritual mind treatment. I had never stepped into a Science of Mind center. That happened a week or so later. But it was interesting, they had a car that they were raffling off. I didn't have a car, I was using my mom's car. In fact, she was at the picnic, of course, it was her company. So I needed a car, and there was this Chevy that they were going to raffle off. I went over and I put my hands on that Chevy and I said, this is my car. And very confidently had my ticket, and we did the raffle, and this old guy won the car. What happened? So I went over to him and I said, so what are you doing with the car? He said, I don't know. He was the security guard at the bank. He said, I just bought a new Cadillac. Oh, God, I have to buy a car. How much do you want for it? He said, $200. Okay. And I had a car. It was my car. I just had to pay for it. We create our experience. We do that. The idea of spiritual mind treatment is just a formula that actually gets you into the space to know what you choose to know. It helps you get there with authority. So you got that third step of realization. There are those major things that you're supposed to know when you realize. So let's go through those very quickly. Step 3, realization. If you're doing it for yourself, it's personal. In fact, it's personal whether you're doing it for yourself or somebody else. I'm sure you'll do another class on treating for others. Tonight we're treating for ourselves. That means I treat me. I don't treat you. If it's what's going on in my life, even if I want a relationship with you, I do not treat you. I treat me. Meaning that well, I'll explain this as we get into it, but it's always about me or I in your treatment. This is a hard one for people sometimes to get. You treat in the present. I now have. I now am. I now experience. Whatever it is, you're not treating that it's coming. We went to a minister's gathering in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and there was a lovely group from Unity, a singing group that came and sang for us. And they sang a song called Help is on the Way. And they were really good singers, but they sang Help is on the Way. And when they were done, the minister got up and said, I need to tell you no one's coming. Because we don't treat that something's coming.
It's already here.
It's already here. If you can't see it here now, how's it going to be here? What it's going to be is coming. Yeah, so the deal is, you always treat in the present, which means I now experience this. This is my experience now. And people go, well, that's not. Well, yes, it is. In my consciousness, that is so right now. No one's taken that from me. Because that is what the idea, the thought that knows that it's here now. It's not coming. Don't ever treat something's coming. Don't ever treat something's going to be. Don't treat about tomorrow. Treat about now. We treat in the positive. What does that mean? It means that we treat that it is so, not that it is not so. We treat that it's here, that the thing that we want is here. We don't treat that something is going away or something has gone away. We treat toward something. In neuro-linguistic programming, there's a way to identify people in two basic camps. One is people who move toward what they want and people who move away from what they don't want. In treatment, you must be in a state of moving toward what you want. Your focus must be the thing that you're moving toward, never the thing you're moving away from. You do not treat a pain away. You treat a healthy, vibrant body part or a whole body. You do not treat something away. You starve that idea and you treat the thing that you desire. So you always treat toward the thing that you want. And you treat precisely. What does that mean? That does not mean you treat the details of the thing that you desire. It means you treat precise qualities of that experience. Meaning, if you are in need of reliable transportation, you do not treat for the car down on the lot. You do not find the powder blue convertible and say, my treatment is that I have this car. Don't do that. Because you might get that car and find it's a real limit. You treat the qualities of it. My car's reliable. It has good gas mileage. It starts every time I turn the key. You treat those precise ideas, knowing that whatever it is that you choose has those inherent aspects. And why is this important? Well, I do know somebody that treated to be in a relationship with a particular woman, and he got what he treated. And the divorce really cost him. She was a beauty. Don't do it. You treat relationship. You treat compatibility. You treat clarity. You treat respect and honor and honesty. You treat the qualities that you seek. I had a guy with a car here in town. He was going through a bankruptcy. He had no credit, and he had somebody that was willing to sell him a car on personal credit, and he wanted me to treat that he got that car. I said, I can't do it. Why? I really want that car. I said, because that's not how this works. That may not really be the car you want. I said, I will treat that you have the perfect car. Tell me what the qualities are. I'll know them precisely, and you'll have the car that will work for you. Okay. He didn't get that car. I did the treatment work, but he found a car, the same model year, the same color, the same whole make, sitting on another lot where a guy gave him credit, and that worked out much better. Now, the other car may have been fine, but that just ethically doesn't work for me to treat a specific in that terms of a certain item, a certain thing. I will treat the qualities of it specifically, and that way, whatever ends up being the outcome, it's going to work. Okay? See why we do that? So personal, present, positive, and precise. Those are the things that you use to do your third step.
Isn't there a fifth one?
Not on my list. Did somebody come up with a fifth one?
I think Barbara usually tells the tower or something.
The other day, but
The whole thing's powerful.
use meaningful words that mean something to you.
Powerful? Okay, well that's cool. I'm not writing it down because it's not mine.
But I had already seen that.
Why do we give thanks? Because it's polite. Nice people give thanks. Thank you so much. There's an interesting thing about gratitude. We always are grateful for what we already have. Well, that's not true. Now, come on. You could be grateful that something's coming. No, you're only grateful for what you have. If you're grateful, you already have it. And the example would be, I say, Shirley, would you go get me a glass of water? And she said, glad to do it. She gets up and I said, thank you. I don't have a glass of water. I'm not thanking her for the water. I'm thanking her for that she got up and she went off to do that for me. Thank you. When she brings a glass of water and hands it to me, I say, thank you for the water. They're different things. When we're saying thank you, it's for something we have. Now, it's true that a promise could be said, you could offer gratitude for a promise, but it's not common. Most of the things in your life you're grateful for, you already have them. So when in a treatment, you have done your steps, you've gone through recognition of the divine presence, your identification as that presence with authority, you realize the truth of your life, and you move into the fourth step, and you're grateful. You're telling yourself you already have it. And did you not, in present tense, say you have it?
Right.
You did. You already said you have it. So when you say, I'm grateful for it, I'm not grateful for the promise of it. I'm telling myself that I already have it. And that is an element that actually adds to the manifestation of it, by knowing that you already have it. So when you're saying you're thankful for it, see it. See the thing and own the thing that you were grateful for. If it's grateful for a healthy body, own that healthy body. Do not end your treatment with, oh, it's going to hurt to move, or whatever. You know, don't. Own it. Be grateful for it because it's real. Okay? Does that make sense? And then the final step, the last step, is release. So I should write that down. One interesting thing is that these last two steps were not Holmes. They were one of his students, a man named Orrin Moen, a minister in Oakland, California. He said his students were having a little trouble getting here. But that's what Holmes did. He did recognition, unification, and declarations, I think what he called them then. And that was his work. And when he was done there, he was done. He realized that he was done. But he said his students, Moen said his students really liked the idea of giving thanks for it. And then this idea of release came up. And Holmes said, okay, that'll work. So it became a 5-step. And I don't know if you've heard, but there are treatment processes as many as 12 steps. I know, I don't need that. This works just fine. So the release idea is that if you do the first 4 steps and you don't let it go, you're telling yourself that it can only happen by means that you can experience, that you can understand. Something, example, a logical one is, I need more money in my life, obviously I need a raise. As though a raise is the only way you can have more money in your life. Actually, there are infinite ways to have more money in your life. And if you treat knowing that you have more money in your life and you don't let it go, then it's got to happen by a way that you've already experienced, which is likely that you'll expect to get a raise. Will you get a raise? Maybe. But there's also all these other possibilities for flow into your life that you're blocking out because you're relying on your consciousness and your understanding to make that outcome so. So you don't want to do that. At the end of the treatment, you know what is so. You've done this 3rd step. You've got this thing down. You know it's so. You're grateful for it, and you let it go because it's not yours to figure out. Edwin Gaines is notorious for saying, how is none of your business. And if you can't let it go, if you have to keep control of it, then it can only happen by means of your consciousness. Whereas if you do let it go, now it's open to the entire universe and every possibility, an infinite number of possibilities on how that can be resolved. Drew.
It's like it goes back to the reading, the man with the $15 a week and the $30 and $100 a week. It's their own limited perspective of their world that they're getting.
Right.
You know, it's their consciousness. It's what their norm is.
Right.
And they're limited.
And it is your consciousness, but you want your consciousness to know the outcome only. You do want to know that. You want to have a sense of how it's going to look, how it's going to work. But how that shows up in your life is none of your business, and you must release it to allow it to show up by whatever means it chooses, and the universe chooses, or that divine presence chooses in all of its infinite presence to reflect back into your life.
And they were their own limiting factors.
We are always our own limiting factors, always. And the idea of release is to get out of the way and let it happen, and then have a great story. Because you may get the raise, and that's a nice little story, or you may have an aunt you didn't even know you had die and leave you $3 million. Why limit it? Why limit it? Let the universe handle this. Just know what it is that you're calling into your life, what you're realizing. Be clear about that. That's your work. Be clear about what it is that's in your life. Claim that with all of your heart and all of your being. Claim it, and then get out of the way and let it show up. Now that doesn't mean you don't you don't work at it. It doesn't mean that you don't keep your eyes open. I've done treatment work for people, and they didn't get it when it showed up. You know, the next natural thing happened, and they came back, no, it didn't work. What do you mean it didn't work? Well, you treated it that I would be in a loving, healthy relationship, and my ex called. Well, maybe you need to clean up your stuff with your ex so that you know how to be in an honest relationship. Maybe that's why they showed up. You know? It all fits. And it all works. The perfection of life is it always works. It's our ability to see it that is sometimes limiting. Yes.
I'm just curious as to whether it's appropriate to do more than one focus from your treatment, like if you're treating yourself. Can you
Good
put
question.
more than
Oh,
one?
that's an excellent question.
How
Everybody
about this
has a laundry list of things they would like to have happen in their lives. What I recommend is learning this model, do one thing. Do one thing. Let that be,
Till it happens.
yeah, and stay with it till it happens. And it's happening based on your ability to know it's so. And don't pick the hardest one. This isn't a grand challenge. It's about demonstrating that it works. So pick something reasonable and let it show up. You know, do the steps. Be clear. Do it again and again and again and again. And Holmes says those aren't doing additional treatments. It's all one treatment. Just keep treating. Keep treating. Get up in the morning. Do your treatment. I do mine in the morning. Do it with the way you want. If you do it at night, some people prefer that. I like to do it in the morning and then move into my day with that. But my work is always that I stay with it till it's done. I think there comes a point where you can do that. You can bring more than one idea into it. But really, I like to learn this. I like to teach this and ask people to learn how to do this one thing at a time. You know, really, truly, and then watch it show up. It's beautiful. Yes.
So, I was in the prosperity class
Yes.
and love the gratitude letter to my CSO every morning. And,
You still doing it?
oh yeah. So, how does this feels very similar to the gratitude letter. I mean, this feels a treatment.
Sure. We do our gratitude. We do our CSO meeting first thing, and then we visualize on it, and then we do a spiritual night treatment. You know, so.
Yeah.
You know, the whole idea of the letter just brings other forms into it, writing,
Yeah.
reading,
Yeah.
you know, so,
Ever the same way with you?
no, not at all. Whatever's there in that day,
Yeah.
you know, I don't have to treat things over and over
I
anymore.
have specifically added the first two steps
Good,
to my gratitude letter.
that's great, that's great. So do your letter and then do a treatment. And don't write the treatment, just speak the treatment, just speak it in the name of your life. And when we finish the treatment, we end it with the treatment for freedom and the 5 points of power. That's how we end it. We don't say and so it is, which is the natural way to end the treatment,
Right.
which is just in our culture. And so it is means this is so, it's so. We're done. Yes.
Is it okay to write your treatment? 'Cause I
Some people
find
write.
That totally works for me.
Some people write, sure, absolutely. There's no wrong way to do this.
You have people
The idea is, it's not about the words, it's about your consciousness. It's about owning that high level of knowing that allows that thing that you're perceiving to be manifested in a visible form.
Does
To
it
show up in your
way
life.
to avoid distractions if I'm right?
However it works for you, you got it down. Anything else? Boy, you have put up with a lot of talking tonight. Thank you so much. It has been a delight to be with you.
Yes, thank you.
Now we do our receiving for our center. Let me tell you about who got something good to use tonight? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you think you got something good, then this is your opportunity to balance that. This idea of flow is important. It's not just about supporting the center. It's really about demonstrating to yourself that you receive something and you're giving something. It's that experience and expression. And I know some of you are tithers and you send in checks and all that good stuff, so I have no stuff on what goes in the basket tonight, but it's really important that you be in the dynamic flow if you're going to get this stuff. If you're gonna make this work in your life, you can't just take it. You've got to be in the dynamic flow. And I know that you are. I just want to thank you for that. So know with me, right here and right now, that the presence of the divine is absolute. It has revealed itself within our conversation tonight. It is the highest and most truthful thing that we know, that Spirit exists. It exists as us. We are the creative form and fortune of our lives. We are awesome in our power by knowing the truth of who we are, by revealing and realizing that which we are so beautifully in mind. Our lives unfold in perfection. And knowing that this is so, we simply allow this moment to be a moment of gratitude, a moment of being in that dynamic flow, of demonstrating our giving nature, and of supporting our center with our love and our time and our money. It's all good. So I'd ask everyone, please take a moment, just a moment, with the basket that comes to you. And if you have something physical to put in it, please put it in there in a very conscious way. And if you are not putting something physical in it, then put some energy in it, some loving energy, and feel about how much you love this center and how important it is in your life. Let's do this in the silence. These gifts are blessed. I know that this action is a spiritual action of giving and receiving, and that we are in that dynamic flow of spirit. And I claim for everyone in this class that only good can come to us for the good work that we are doing. And I know for those that have placed gifts, financial gifts into these baskets, that each one is blessed. And I offer this special blessing tonight for this continued support for this place and for all that it does. I am so grateful and so joyously happy for who we are and what we do. And I let this be our truth right here, right now, and always. As we move off to whatever is next, I know that we leave here safely and joyously and return to do more when the right time comes. It's all good. It's all God. And so it is. Thank you, everybody. Hello. Well, I hope that your journey this evening with this work, whenever it is you may be watching this recording, that there was value in what was shared, and that you can use that right away in your life. I'm certain that it's all good and it's all God. And so thank you for joining and being a part of this. If it works for you to support the center financially as you take this class and other classes and watch other presentations through our center, that only helps us take care of our business to make sure that we can continue to do this work, touching hearts and lives around the world. And if that does not work for you, then please send us a blessing. Have good thoughts for us as we do this, and keep coming back, because we love to know that you're checking us out and learning from what we're sharing, and that all is well. So have a great day, and we'll see you again soon.